Welcome to the Frontline Herbalism podcast with your host Nicole Rose from the Solidarity Apothecary. This is your place for all things plants and liberation. Let's get started. Hello friends, how are you doing? I am so happy to have closed the Herbalism, PTSD and Traumatic Stress course. Just been like blown away by the response. People have been so kind and generous, and like tons of people have accessed it for free, which just like warms my heart because I know it's getting to the people who need it, if that makes sense. Been getting loads of sweet emails from people with kind of gratitude for the sliding scale options and the kind of liberating way the course has been designed. So yeah, I'm like stoked about that. Absolutely knackered. Just trying to catch up on all the other little bits and bobs. I've got a little trip away this weekend with my partner, so that will be really nice. But this episode is absolutely banging. It is an interview with two friends of mine, Kes and Anja. And yeah, they're just like incredible organizers and herbalists and yeah, just really old, amazing friends. And they've made these beautiful zines, the Queer Plants Colouring Zine and the Queer Animals Colouring Zine. Maybe you've ordered them from them or from me on my shop, but they're really amazing, cute offerings to the world that really explore kind of like queerness in nature and challenge our kind of like imposed heterosexuality and heteronormativity on the world. So yeah, but some of the references in the interview are because we recorded it like before my course was launched, so I kind of referenced that a little bit. So it's a bit of a time skip, but I'm going to put links to their projects and their websites in my show notes, so please check that out. And I will be back with a Prisoners Herbal episode soon, but for now, please enjoy this interview. It was tons of fun. I'm really sorry about the sound quality in parts. Like I take responsibility for that with experimenting with the software and did a sound check for myself, but not for everyone that was being interviewed. So yeah, I'm really sorry, but I'm sure they will be back on the show in the future with much nicer, fancy sound quality. And I'll probably let Kes do all of the tech stuff because she's an angel like that. I haven't really like got my head around doing interviews yet because I've just been doing these like solo episodes about the Prisoners Herbal. Anyway, thank you so much again to everyone who joined the Herbalism, PTSD and Traumatic Stress course. It's going to be open for enrollment again, hopefully in October. But on the course page, there's now a link to like a waiting list. So if you want to be like, emailed, notified when it's available, then please sign up to that. And everyone who joins that waiting list also gets a discount on the course. All right. Okay, let's dive into the interview. Yeah, thank you so much for both being here. Would you be able to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Kes.
And I'm Anja.
Kiki, I mean, like...
Are you on like a proper introduction? Okay.
I know you do like all the things, like literally all the things, like caps lock, all. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, what you're doing and, how, stuff you're involved with in the world and things.
I can go first. I'm Kes Leaf. At the moment, I am taking a writing retreat in Portugal, which is the most luxurious, amazing thing in the world because we are working on a lot of books this year, including, we were just talking about it, a queer ecology non-fiction book, which is our first time, I'm writing some like proper science in a book with like accessible kind of queer ecology stuff. Who? Me and Anja.
No, I said woohoo.
Oh, woohoo.
Really irritating. Because I know you've got a degree in biology, right? Like you're actually like a hardcore geek under there.
Yeah, Anja has a PhD in botany. I have a master's in a master's? No, I don't. I have a bachelor's in ecology. Wow, just giving myself a little master's. I wish it was that easy.
Yeah. You put those on the internet, couldn't you? Just pop it on there.
Right, I think so. Just print one out. I am a speculative fiction author, writing from a working class, trans feminine, chronically ill perspective, and community organizer for 20-something years. Right now, I'm kind of in between activist things and kind of working out what comes next, but that's okay. It's given me lots of chance to focus on all the writing, which is really good. And at the moment, a lot of the writing and creative projects are with Anja. Say hi, Anja.
Yes, so my name's Anja. I use they them pronouns. I live in Scotland, in beautiful green landscape. And well, I think like my daily life is a lot about that landscape right now. We have planted an orchard, and we're like doing all kinds of stuff here on the land. And as you said, I'm a biologist. I've done a PhD in primrose ecology, and I am also a herbalist, breathwork practitioner, and I've organized quite a few kind of like breathwork fundraisers. To send all of your books and all of like the zines that Kes and I made to Books Beyond Bars. So yeah, that's what I can say. I guess.
Amazing. Yeah. And all that fundraising has been like so appreciated over the years. If people don't know, Books Beyond Bars is like a prisoner book project, which, yeah, we can talk about another time. But I know you're also part of starting that, weren't you, before, I think, Kes?
Yeah, it was this really beautiful process that I was in the UK a few times on book tour and had worked with a similar project called LGBT Books to Prisoners in the US, the so-called US. And I kind of was meeting all these really amazing people, and I was like, oh, it seems like everybody's kind of wanting to do some kind of similar project in the UK. And yeah, just kind of put all the people together in a room, and then the thing happened, which I have to say felt like one of the like highlights of my organizing career, because I just haven't had to do very much, and I just kind of like talk about how amazing they are and support them and like send them books and things or like raise funds, but like the people doing it are just these incredible hardworking, like amazing folks doing all this, like very invisible and invisibilized labor, and yeah, they just need all the support possible. They're really amazing.
Yeah, definitely. So talking about books or talking about zines, you two are the creators of these amazing zines. One's called the Queer Plants Colouring Zine and one's the Queer Animals Zine. And yeah, I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about your inspiration for those, and maybe for folks who haven't heard about them, like what they are. Because yeah, they're definitely like my favorite things to color in. So yeah, tell me more. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, so the whole thing started in a very weird way, which is that I was getting ready to release my first novel, Margins and Murmurations, and I was poor as fuck, as usual. So I was like crowdfunding everything. And I had this kind of idea that when you're doing a crowdfunding, you're supposed to give something back apart from, putting my amazing novel in the world. So I was like, oh, okay, so I should send something to all the people who've supported, because it was paying for the design fees and editing and publishing and all these things. So I was like, oh, I could make a little zine of some gay animals or something that would be cute. Because in the novel, there's a whole section about queer ecology, queer animals, herbalism. There's like a whole bunch of things in there. And so I was like, okay, that would be cute. That would even make sense and kind of be relevant to the project. So I did some very bad drawings and made it, I think it was like just like a PDF or something. Maybe there's some printed copies. And from there, somehow now we're at Zine 2. There's a full-size coloring book being printed as we speak. That's about to be published next month or so. And yeah, it's, you know, and you will talk about their part with the illustrations, but I just feel like it's become this very beautiful project where we get to do things that we really love. I get to sit there with my books and the internet and like geek out about things that I care about a lot. And we make something beautiful that people can enjoy, that we can raise funds for Solidarity Apothecary. We can send copies to Books Beyond Bars. I just feel like it's this like very political, creative, I don't know, we're just kind of getting to do things that we like and doing something good in the world. It just feels like the dream, to be honest.
And it is really dreamy. So, like, yeah, for people that don't know us, like, we're all quite close friends, and I would be regularly texting you, Kes, about, like, hey, is this animal gay? Like, hey, like, do you know anything about dogs? Like, are they bisexuals? Like, and you seem to have this, like, encyclopedic knowledge of different, like, queer animals. And I want to kind of, like, go back to basics of, like, if people are listening to this and they're like, what the hell does that mean? Can you kind of, one of you, like, fill us in on, yeah, what does that mean, like, queer animals? Like, how is an animal queer, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I can take animals and I'll give plants to Anja.
All right.
So often, you know, I think there's multiple layers to it, and that's what we're really discovering as well with writing this hopefully accessible science book, is that it can be this kind of very political subject that has like a lot of meaning, has a lot of like repercussions for grassroots community organizing. And also it can be something really fun and interesting. And somehow, like, when people learn that, you know, penguins can be gay and there are gay couples of penguins living in zoos or something. I mean, poor penguins in zoos, but or that like Nemo is trans because clownfish swap sexes several times during their life. Things like this, like, it's almost become kind of common knowledge, and it's something that is quite accessible to people. And I think having it be a coloring book, which is very accessible, and yeah, it just kind of brings it to a lot of people that they can be like, oh, look, this is a thing. And people will, you know, feel identified with their queer animal or something. And yeah, so I feel like, particularly when we're talking about queerness, in this case, we're talking about sex, sexuality, and gender. And in all of those ways, non-humans are doing all kinds of queer things during their lives that we can kind of, yeah, maybe connect to human queerness. And of course, a lot of it is projection, right? Like, but I think it's interesting that, you know, I had a degree in ecology. I grew up watching every wildlife TV program that exists, and it was all completely unknown to me. Like, none of this was spoken about. There was still only a couple of books on the subject, and it's all still a bit of a taboo. And it's interesting to be looking at like the history of that, of like the history of people kind of seeing things and observing them and kind of hiding the information, or publishing bias of like certain papers are going to get published, certain things are not. Some things are going to be, certain kinds of sexual behavior is going to be seen as an anomaly, and so we don't need to talk about it, and it doesn't make it into the research and nobody ever knows about it. So there's all these kind of layers of queerphobia, which actually makes perfect sense. And so it's kind of a lens also for looking at prejudice against queer folks in humans as well.
Yeah, that makes loads of sense. And I think definitely until I'd met you, like, I hadn't put two and two together, if that makes sense, which seems daft because it's like absolutely obvious, right? That there would be like differences in sexuality or gender. But I think your zine is really just this like beautiful kind of creative introduction to a subject that's actually like very kind of radical and subversive, of just like, hey, like, you've been imposing your kind of like cis hetero patriarchal style like on the world, and it's just not it's just not real, like, it's just not real, if that makes sense. But
right.
yeah, so like I think like with the animals, it's like kind of maybe easier for people to kind of grasp. But yeah, the plants coloring zine. Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about that, Anja? Of like, yeah, what's kind of queerness got to do with plants? I mean, we all know, but like,
yeah, we all know. Well, I think plants are very special, right? Like, in the sense that, like, we as humans have kind of tried to kind of put like a human filter on their experiences and their like way of living their lives, right? And I think if you actually look at how plants do live their life, it has nothing like it has nothing to do with any type of heterosexual kind of like boy meets girl kind of story. Their way of reproduction, their way of like mating, and how they kind of live their lives and how they kind of organize themselves amongst each other and amongst like the land within the landscape, is so diverse, is so expansive, is so amazing. And I think queer is like a really good term to kind of describe plants. And just to kind of like give a little number, like if you take the male female offspring type of model that we like are used to hearing about in animals and humans, only 5 to 6% of all plant species actually follow that model. The rest of all species, of all plant species, follow something completely different, and I think that's quite special. So yeah, just that. If you're just thinking about mating systems, they're like very, very queer. If you look at how they relate to other species for pollination, for seed dispersal, they're also very queer. If you look at their genetics, it's amazingly complex and intriguing. They can hybridize. They can, like a tree can basically grow through a fence without an issue, which is pretty amazing. So they're very adaptable. They're very plastic. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And I think like calling plants special is like a really beautiful way of like framing it, because I think we're just like so like so limited in our knowledge of them, if that makes sense. Even though we've been learning about plants since like the dawn of time, it's like they're still just fascinating, and you learn different things like every single day. And your zine, like I think it's like again like a really beautiful little tender introduction to some of these like concepts around kind of like reproduction, or like have you got like a particular favorite plant in your zine? Like either of you, have you got one that you'd like to share about today?
Anja definitely has.
I actually don't know if I have. I like them all really. Like obviously primrose always has like a special place in my heart because I've done my PhD on them, and they are amazing. But yeah, I have to say I like all plants.
Tell us about the primrose, Anja.
The primrose. I think one of the main reasons why I was really keen of having it in the zine is that they are a very well-known model for a specific type of a mating system in plants. So if anyone talks about self-incompatibility, they will talk about the primrose, Primula vulgaris. And so they are like a model species, and at the same time, they break all rules of that model all the time, right? So the little story goes that you've got two types of plants within the primrose. You've got pin plants and you've got drum plants, and in theory, reproduction or like viable seeds only come out of mating between a pin with a trum or a trum with a pin. And I think during my research for my PhD and reading of other people's work, it's very clear that whenever a population of primroses kind of gets into trouble by whatever reason, if it's like their habitat that's being fragmented or like destroyed, or whenever there's an issue, they will actually kind of mix up that mating system so that pin times pin does give viable seeds, trum by trum does give viable seeds, or they even like produce a whole other type of plants. So the pins and the trums, they're called heterostyles, and whenever there is a need for the species also develop plants that are called homostyles. And that all has to do with how their like anthers and stigmas are positioned within the flower. But in a way, that's not very important. It's just that they really vary their mating systems dependent on what's going on around them, basically.
I think I'm probably similar. I'm joking. But no, they're like really beautiful flowers, and it's nearly the season, right? Well, I guess for you in England, maybe you'll get them in like May or something, but they're coming out near me soon.
Amazing, yeah.
And you also talk in the book, I must say, like, I'm definitely like not a mushroom geek or a mushroom person. I know lots of ecology types are, and that's their kind of like entryway. But I shamefully have like next to no mushroom knowledge. But you talk about one in the zine, I think it's this split sill mushroom that has like 23,000 odd sexes. And I thought that was pretty fun. I just wondered if you could say anything about that.
So with these split sill mushrooms, it's quite special. Like, we can't really talk about sexes in them as we can talk about male, female. That doesn't really apply to these mushrooms, but they have different mating types. And in a way, it's very similar to the story about primroses that I just told. So basically, in the genetic material of these mushrooms, there are two genes that kind of code for their mating type. And each gene has a specific number of different possibilities within that gene, and we call these alleles. And so one gene, which is called locus A, has 288 different varieties of this gene, and locus B has 81 alleles, so different varieties of this gene. And so if you combine those two possibilities, basically, you come up with nearly 23,000 different, just statistically different possibilities. And those are mating types, so different, you could look at them as sexes, but different ways, different organizations in a way. And each mushroom has access to all these different types to make it really
amazing. Yeah, no, it's like super interesting. And I know that like you both have a lot of kind of like a very strong relationship to plants and ecology and the land, and Kes, like a lot of all of your books have that as like a kind of like running theme. And just on like a personal note, I remember being like incredibly sick and incredibly burnt out and being like up to your house. Like my friends all put in 50 quid and bought me You're a tunnel ticket to come to yours, and you judges, and you looked after me, and did herbal things, and we were joking because it was kind of like one of the main characters in your book, your first book. So I just wondered, like, again, I don't want to give away the plot to everyone, but maybe you could just like, I think a lot of the listeners of this show are very interested in like the connection between like plants and like resistance, or like for liberation, community organizing in different ways, and I just wondered if you could like speak to that in your books as a kind of theme.
Yeah, it's interesting because that is where the zines came from. As I was telling earlier, that is like those scenes led to the zines, and which has become its own kind of project now. But it's true that right from the beginning, for me to be writing utopian speculative fiction, there was always going to be a lot of elements of land, particularly like growing up poor and not having any real access to land, but always wanting it and being very seduced by the lichens and the blackbirds. And so I think there's quite a longing there, and even more in the new novel, which is coming soon. I think that was always a really strong element for my writing. And it's been interesting as well because, with this like queer ecology project, I think, as I was saying before, it like speaks to people on lots of different levels. What's really exciting for me is to be like keeping it really political, because that's what I like. And, really writing the book that, and also the novels, like writing the work that I wish I had like had 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I guess. So yeah, absolutely, like grassroots community movements, with, for example, autonomous healthcare, herbalism, and land-based organizing. And that, in a way that's easier to kind of get to through a novel sometimes, because people are like following the story and they're following the character. They're like, this is some autonomous organizing I was just reading about. I didn't really think about that. Rather than it be like a manifesto or something. But I think what I'm really enjoying with the queer ecology work as well is that, sometimes it's ecology for queers. How is this like relevant to our community organizing or our community living or our lives? And sometimes it's queerness for ecologists, and sometimes it's queer stuff and ecology stuff for people who are in a third category, I guess. And it's just been really interesting to see how something like symbiosis, symbiogenesis, horizontal gene transfer, all these very, very geeky things that I'm just having so much fun with, it like tells us something about how we organize our societies and how we take care of each other. And I don't know, there's a lot of mutual aid to learn about in queer ecology. I'm just really enjoying like how all these like weird connections are happening in my brain that I'm not sure. I don't know, just really enjoying it.
Amazing. And that is sort of like queerness, right? Like blurring those margins and those binaries, and like, and I
Exactly.
hadn't thought of that actually, like some people might have like this like ecology entry point, if that makes sense, because I connect with a lot of queers who like live in cities, and like maybe they're not so interested in like the land or non-humans, and then we're like this niche of like queers that are just like, give me plants, like, like our thing. And then obviously you meet eventually, and it's like, you're a babe, like you like plants, like, this is like what
absolutely.
But so I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to share about the zines, like where people can get them from, and
I did want to read one of the profiles, which is so a lot of them are just specific species, but this is just like a whole section on lichens, and I'm just going to read it out because it's really cute. So lichens smash binaries wherever they go. Symbiosis was once seen as a radical concept. The idea that a lichen was a compound organism of a fungus and a green alga, or a photosynthesizing bacteria called a cyanobacteria, that benefited mutually from the relationship seemed absurd to scientists. Surely the fungus was holding the alga captive and exploiting it for its photosynthetic superpowers. Working together? Impossible! Those ideas say a lot more about the people who believe them than it does about lichens. But fungal-algal symbiosis is pretty wild. Fungi and plants are far apart on the tree of life. Fungi and cyanobacteria, who also form lichens, are not even in the same domain, meaning that you and a mushroom are closer relations than any two that come together to create lichens. In general, living things diverge over time as each branch of the evolutionary tree splits into smaller and smaller twigs. But here, different branches come together, known as convergence. A plant and a fungus make a whole new organism. I can photosynthesize, but I can't eat rocks. Oh, really? I love eating rocks, but I can't photosynthesize. Want to get together sometime? And they're living their best life, covering 8% of the Earth's land surface, more than tropical rainforests, and surviving in space, just because humans love taking things into space. And the story doesn't end there. The closer people examined lichens, the more species they found mixed into the relationship. Not just one fungus, but several. And loads of bacteria turned up who couldn't eat rocks or photosynthesize, but could do all kinds of other useful things. It's grown ever more complex to the point that two species lichens might not even be a thing. And what we've been calling an organism this whole time might be a system of interactions, a whole community. Lichens, bringing all the complexity, and we love them for it.
Yay! And if anyone loves listening to your voice, they can also check out your podcast, which
yes.
About. But do you want to just share a little bit about your podcast?
Sure. Yeah, it's called Margins and Murmurations, the podcast. Margins and Murmurations is the name of my first novel. I think I'm on like episode 10 or 11 or something. It is all over the place, which I'm really enjoying. When I was thinking, it would be so nice to have a cute little podcast. I should choose one subject and just do that. I was like, but that's just not who I am as a person. So what about I just do anything that kind of vaguely relates to the novels? So it's been all over the place, and I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, it's really a nice way to make connections, to have exploring conversations, to learn a lot. So you can find that in places that people have podcasts, or just directly from my website, which is otterleaf.com/podcast.
Amazing. And I'll put the link in the show notes. I think the episode on trans herbalism, sorry, I feel bad, I can't remember, is it Eyelet?
Eyelet.
Was really beautiful. I kept meaning to text you about it. So I definitely recommend people checking that out. And I know, Anja, you've got like a whole other hat, which is this like breathwork hat. And I'm just about to launch this course about herbalism and PTSD and traumatic stress. And I know that I personally haven't done any kind of breathwork practices, but I know it's like a big tool in lots of people's toolboxes. So I think people would be interested in hearing a little bit more about that, if you fancy sharing a bit about what you do in terms of facilitating sessions and things.
So I am a herbal breathwork practitioner. I organize online group sessions, mostly for group. And I think breathwork is like a really nice practice. It can be very, like relaxing, kind of taking us back to our bodies. It can also help us connect to difficult feelings, like feeling the feelings and all that. So, and it's always very, very beautiful to do that in a small and cozy group with other queers. So at the moment, I have not planned anything yet, but in general, I use Instagram to kind of keep people up to date about what I'm organizing. And Thin Primrose on Instagram.
Okay, amazing. I'll put it in the show notes too, and your lovely website, which I've seen. I think we might have lost Kes. I think her signal is. Oh, is she back?
No, I'm here. I was just on mute.
It's gone like grey, and I was like, oh no.
Still here.
You can see I'm like a podcasting pro. This is the first interview I've done because I've mostly been doing these like solo episodes, and already
we're very honored.
Repeated disaster of scheduling and losing the questions and all the like things, but I'm glad I've messed it up with you two because
because we're so patient.
You like know me too well. You're just like, oh yep, that's Nicole. She's gonna reschedule for like 3 months time because like she's a massive workaholic. So yeah, it's it's been fun.
Well, you are very busy doing all the things, to be honest. I also, like, before we finish, I do want to ask you what queer plants means to you, or queer ecology, or any of these subjects. Like, how do these things kind of fit into your life?
Ooh, on the spot.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. I think for me, there's always this thing of like you know, like these days, like queerness is kind of like this weird commodity on Instagram. It's like social capital of like, you know, you're a certain thing or whatever. But like, I think, I mean, I'm 34, just about to turn 35, and even in my generation, it was like very dangerous to be queer, you know, when I was young. It's still dangerous in lots of countries around the world. And, you know, I don't want to assume it's safe anywhere, but I just mean like, you know, I remember being like threatened in public, not being like publicly affectionate with my partners, like, you know, like all the things. And I think for me, it made me feel like I was like kind of divergent or like perverted, or you know, this like Christian hangover of like something wrong with it or something. And I think the reason like your zines and your like approach is so liberating is it's just like it normalizes everything to me. Like I don't actually want to be super unique and weird and like stand out all the time. Like I want to just be like part of the world and accept myself being part of the world. And yeah, you know, like I'm cis, but I'm bisexual, and like to know that there's like, yeah, like bisexual deers, for example. Like I remember your Patreon as the, you know, you pick an animal. It was like, yay, deers, like because they're new and they're bisexual, and I was just like, yeah, like I'm up for that. But yeah, so I think for me, it's more that like it's validating and normalizing, and it's just like actually, this is the norm, this is the default, and like all the other things are just kind of like human created, human imposed, like oppressive categories, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, so I think that's my answer. But is there anything else you'd like to share before we finish?
I would like to just say, just recently, Kes and I made a little PDF of 6 profiles on an A4. And the intent with that is like if there's any organizations that use coloring, you know, for soothing, for comfort with people, organizations or people who work with people that like coloring, where that like working with our queer animals and plants might be a positive thing, we'd be happy just to share that PDF that they could just print out to color in. And I think anyone can contact me or Kes to get access to that PDF.
Oh, amazing.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, that's a beautiful offering. And I think when you like make something like this, it's really nice to like actually get feedback, isn't it? Like myself and my friend Amani like made this medicinal herb coloring book, and her drawings are just so stunning. I mean, I literally just
really beautiful
wrote a bit of text underneath each one, but like seeing all the drawings, you know, when someone sends me a picture on Instagram of like, you know, through lockdown their grandmother has been like painting this red clover, and, like keeping her going because she's shielding, because you know the pandemic is still happening anyway. like it's so nice to like get that feedback or get that feedback from someone in prison of like, hey, this has been yeah, I think if anyone has like, and we know lots of you have been ordering them because I posted 1 million out before Christmas, so definitely send us your photos of them being coloured in. Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much, both of you. It's been so nice. I wish we were like under duvet, like doing karaoke, like
yes,
things.
We should soon.
And thank you so much for your time today and your
thank you.
while I organise all the rescheduling.
It's been lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the links in the show notes. And yeah, thanks so much. Take care. Thanks so much for listening to the Frontline Herbalism podcast. You can find the transcript, the links, all the resources from the show at solidarityapothecary.org/podcast.